All right, so what we're going to do is create a composite image. You'll obviously have to make adjustments depending on what your composite image is, but I'm just going to do something basically what we do in class is what I'm going to do here. So first I'm going to do is just go ahead and open all the images just so that I have them readily available. Actually, I don't even need to do that. I am actually just going to open up the background there. So I'll just do File, Open. I'm just going to open up my background because that's the one I'm going to use. So this is a photo I took. I don't even know why I took this way back when, but this is I used to teach for the New York Film Academy at Harvard, and this was like in front of the dorms that we were in. The dorms were actually very terrible. Some of the worst dorms I've ever been in. Anyway, so I'm gonna use this as my background, and I'm gonna bring everything and place them into here, and then composite inside of this image. It's just easiest to start with the background, so it's already called background. I might make some adjustments, but I'm gonna call that probably good. What I'm going to do first, though, is just go ahead and crop this. So I'm going to go to the crop tool, 6x9 by 300. And this clearly will make the most sense just doing it as, I would say, as a, why is that? There we go. There we go. I don't know why it wasn't letting me. It probably makes the most sense to do it as a landscape. The thing I'm going to do, too, is let's do like that. I didn't want to have the extra little, so I don't want this little spot in there, and I don't want this really in there either. But we're gonna kind of cut the make the difference here. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in, and you can see this little bit here. I just want to get rid of it. I know it's dumb, but it just annoys me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just do this and do a content aware fill. So we'll just do edit content aware fill, and it should look fine. We'll hit OK. Voila. Okay, so I just didn't want that extra little bit there. And if there's other things you want to remove, go ahead and just, heal those elements. Do the best that you may. Another thing I'm going to do, just while we are here, is why not use content aware? Just because I'm looking at this, and really this isn't really in the 1/3, but we'll call it fine for now. Let's just go ahead and let's place some of our objects in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to just have my dog in here. So I'm going to do File. We'll do, actually, I don't want to open. We're going to go ahead and we're going to place. So we're going to File. Instead of opening it and copying and pasting, we're going to just place it directly in here. So go File. Then you can see there's Place Embedded and Place Linked. Linked means that it will always look to the original file. And if that original file changes, like wherever it is, it will change here subsequently as well. That's super useful for some things. Like when we do InDesign, you'll see that that is especially more useful. But we're going to do Place Embedded so it actually exists inside of my thing here, and I'm just going to go ahead and choose my dog, and we'll call that good enough. All right, and there she is. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I need to basically crop her out so that I have those elements. I'm just going to go ahead and rename this background, and let's go ahead and lock it so I don't accidentally mess it up. And we're going to rename this one, and this one is Loaf because that's my dog's name. All right. Let's go ahead. You'll notice that it automatically came in as a smart object, which is good. Now what we're going to do is basically try to select her. So it's best just to work broad to specific. So I'm going to use underneath this one the object selection. If I hover over, it's going to take a second. You'll see, voila, it tried to grab her, and it did a pretty good job. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and I am going to make some adjustments. Okay, so looking at this, you can see this little bit here I don't really like. Okay, like it got a little bit of that tree, got confused. So I'm going to go to the next one, and that's going to be the quick selection tool. So I'm going to go ahead and make this smaller. So the way that the quick selection tool works is it will look for borders, right? So if I go like this, oh, this is adding. So you can see it has a little plus on it. I don't know if you can see it. So you can do, this would start with a new one. As soon as I start doing it, that's going to be a new one. It's going to undo my current selection. By default, it's on the plus, which is fine. I'm going to undo that. And then there's the minus, which means it'll always remove. So like that in Paint, it would be minus. Leave it on this. If I hold Shift, it's add. And if I hold Alt, it's minus. So I'm just going to hold Alt and just basically kind of brush like that. And you'll see it should leak to the edge. All right. I could do that here as well. I'm just going to hold Alt. And you can see it leaked right to the edge. I just don't want her foot in there because I find that more confusing. I might superficially add her foot into that. And then there's this bit here. I'm just going to hold Alt, and you can see it didn't quite get what I was hoping for, so I'm going to not hold Alt, make this a little bit smaller, and voila. There's also a little bit here I don't want, so I'm just going to hold Alt and click, and that looks acceptable. All right, fabuloso. So that looks kind of okay. So the other tool that you might find useful, kind of depends on what you're doing, is the magic wand. The magic wand, the way that this one works, is it will, it doesn't look for an edge. When you click on an area, what it's going to do is it's going to leak through the colors. It's going to select everything within that color range, basically. So it doesn't look for an edge so much as it just looks to see if it's similar. All right. So this was the original one. So they get newer as you go up, and they get fancier. So this one is just basically looking for a like. This one looks for edges, and this one looks for objects. Okay. We don't really need to use magic wand because the quick select did a good enough job. But sometimes I find the magic wand. Oops, don't mind that. Sometimes I find the magic wand to be useful. Okay, but in this case, I don't think we need to do anything more with it. All right, so that looks fine. Next, we have the polygonal lasso. We have the lasso tools. You should be familiar with this. This one's just manually drawing. There's the magnetic lasso, which is really nice, and this polygonal lasso. Let's go ahead and do the magnetic lasso. And I'm just going to look, and see, the problem is there isn't really any issues with this. You know what? We'll say that that's fine. I'm not going to use it here. I will use these lasso tools on the next one so you can see how those work. Okay. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. So the next thing to do is to maybe make some adjustments to this. So if I want to fine tune things, so I'm just kind of looking, like if you look right here, it looks like maybe there's a little bit more fuzz there than there should be more fuzz there. I don't want this in here. Again, I could just use that, but I just want to show you there's a little bit extra black there. A little bit of her foot should be there. There's some grass here. It's not a be-all, end-all, but there's little pieces where I'd like to make some adjustments. So a nice way of kind of working is, like I said, work broad specific. So use the really big broad selection ones. Then I would use the lassos. Actually, you know what? We can use lassos on this. So I'm going to go ahead, since I'm on it, let's use the magnetic lasso. Again, if I hold shift, you'll see it's going to turn to a plus. And if I hold alt, it turns into a minus. Okay, so I'm going to hold alt. I'm going to click. And then when I get up here, I'm just going to click, and I'm just going to drag. Notice that it tries to stick, and then I'm just going to click, and then we'll just get to here and click. It will try to stick to the edge. It's kind of like the smart object, what is it called? The quick selection tool. All right, I'm not going to worry about the rest of her foot there. There's a little bit here I don't want. Again, I'm going to hold alt and click. Oops, I am on the wrong one. Hold alt and click, and boom, boom, boom. And I'm just going to double click. That'll grab that little bit. There's some grass here. So this might not work as well because it might have a hard time seeing that edge, especially on this side. See how it did okay. It might have difficulties. Might be some pieces in here. So Control Plus, you can see it might have a difficulty finding that. So what I'm going to do is just do regular polygonal lasso. Again, I'm just going to hold alt for remove and click, and I don't know, click, 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 click. And then I'm just going to double click, and then that section's gone. I'm just going to hold alt, click. I'm just kind of guesstimating here. Okay, voila. All right. You can see a little bit here. So I'm just going to go to the magnetic lasso. Going to hold alt, and we're just going to, and that was the wrong one because I actually cut away. Sorry, I want to hold shift because I actually want to add this to my current selection. So if you see it goes off, see how it's off like that? And let's say it accidentally makes a point that you don't want. See how I made a point over there? If I hit backspace, you can get it back. So then I'm just going to click in here. So every now and then you might have to just click to kind of force it to do what you want it to do. Click, 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 and then double click. All right. So that is the lasso in a nutshell. Okay. So now let's say I want to even more precisely make some adjustments. Okay. Like I'm just like, oh, there's a little bit of fur there. So what I could do is if you hit Q, it will do this, or you click on this. That is quick mask mode. So the way the quick mask mode works is basically when you are doing it, you use your paintbrush here, and then you can paint black or white. White will add to the selection. I'm just going to hit the greater than, not greater than, the brackets to the right of the P key. That will add to my selection. Now watch, when I hit Q and turn it back off, that's now part of my selection. Okay. But if I paint black, switch black, I can go like that. All right. Okay. So basically it's black and white and any gradation therein. So if for some reason I were to do, let's say gray, it's going to be half selected. So imagine it being kind of just semi grabbing it. That's the difference. But generally speaking, you just want black and white. To quickly switch between these, you get these little arrows, and that will click between black and white. The background and foreground color is what we call that. or if you just hit X, that quickly switches between the background foreground color. So in particular, it's really useful for this when you're trying to paint back and forth. Now, we can change our brush size by hitting the bracket keys to the right of the P key, and we can change the brush hardness and softness here with the greater than, less than keys. So if I want to do a fuzzy, edge, I don't know if you see how it's fuzzy. I can so a feathered edge. I could also just do that as well. Generally speaking, for this, I think it's just going to make the most sense to leave it. I'm going to go to here actually and just manually kind of go halfway between. And I'm going to make this smaller, and I'm just going to kind of, that was bad. Just kind of, put little stuff here. So it's kind of hard because she is fuzzy. I feel like maybe a little bit too much was selected here. Now you're going to notice this isn't going to be a perfect selection, and I'll show you a way to fix this. See, there's like a little extra little bit right there. So if I Control plus, you see right here, it's a little too much. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this brush a bit smaller and kind of go in there. And I'm just going to go around the edges here. So this all feels like a little bit too much. And I'm just going to basically mask this out as best as I can. And just go around all the edges and see if there's anything that, you want. Like, see, look at this little edge here was still selected when I did the thing earlier. So I'm just going to go around, and I'm just going to make sure I don't have things in there that I don't want. Okay. So this looks mostly okay. It did a pretty decent job considering. I don't see any major issues. Okay. So I'm just going to back this thing up again. Oh. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we have all that. You'll notice that this turns red, and this is red too. When I hit Q or you click this, we'll be back out of mask mode, right? And you can see that that is now my selection. Another thing is, if for some reason, let's say a thing you're trying to paint, let's say this is red, you can double click on the mask and you can change the opacity of the mask. So right now it's 50% transparent. So like if you're like, oh man, I'm having a hard time seeing it, I could try making it 25 and hit OK. And now you see how it's much less. Or you can go 50%, I think is actually pretty good. You can also reverse it so that the masked area is colored in as opposed to the background. And you can also change the color. So you could change to be like, it'd be easier for me if it was bright green. And then you'll see, let me hit Q. You'll see that now it is green. Okay. So if for some reason you make some adjustments there, you can do that as well. All right. So we'll say this is my selection, but there is an issue with it. Don't do this. I'm just going to go ahead and mask it. And what you're going to see is it's not too awful bad. But you see, there's still like a bit of like, I don't want to say a glow, but there's a bit of an edge there, and it doesn't really show. It actually did okay considering, but you might have like a hard edge that looks unnatural. So what we're gonna do is, and it's here, right? It's a little bit cloudy. It doesn't look quite right. It's a really obvious mask. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make some adjustments to this using the select menu here. Okay, so there's a bunch of different options here. What I'm going to do is use this one, select and mask, because this will basically open up a new kind of workspace. And from here, I can make some adjustments. So we can paint a selection with this. That's not really useful. This is the main reason why we're in there, okay, is this guy here. So use this refine edge brush tool. You're going to go up here, and then you can choose how it's showing it. So currently, I have it on black. I don't remember what it does before. You could do onion skin, marching ants, where it actually shows the selection. You could do an overlay so that it'll show you what you're cutting out. Black and white, so you can see the actual like mask itself. So you can see actually there's a little bit of extra there that I didn't want selected, right? So that even might be useful. I find on black useful. It depends. If this was a dark object on a white thing, then I would probably do it on white, but I'm going to use on black. And then you can change the opacity here, so I can make it more or less. So I can make it absolutely black. So I'm just going to kind of go, I like to do a decent amount, like around 80. These are fine. So let's see, refine mode. That's fine. We don't really need that. Edge detection. Okay. So what I'm going to do first is this. This tool works particularly well, this refine edge brush, because what it's going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. It's going to, particularly if you have like things like hair or fur, it will try to find those and it will clean those up. So notice that now it's showing the little bit of fur, but not the back spot right? So let's see this edge. Now watch. I'm going to go like this, right? So I got a little bit too much there. We'll come back to that. And you can see in here, it started cutting into it, right? So that's not good. I'm happy I did it, though, because I want to show you a thing with it. So I'm just going to try to keep it to the edges. But you can see it's more or less kind of cleaning up. So particular with her, because she is fur, it's going to be really useful for something like this. But if you have someone with like flyaway hairs or anything like that, you might find, so like right here, see, it doesn't do a very good job because it's catching the grass. I'm going to undo that part. We'll just do this, and we'll grab some of that. And I kind of go around. So see, it's a little too much there. So I'm just going to try to get it to be, I'm holding space bar, but it keeps getting mad. So, some of it it's doing a better job with than others, but hopefully you get the idea. I'm not going to sit here and do it all day long, but that ear could be cleaner. Just going to do these parts here real quick. Okay. Now, for areas where you're like, oh no, it did a bad job, I could do the minus, and then you can paint it back away. So I'm just going to paint. I didn't want it in here because it wasn't doing what I was hoping for, and also in here it went too much. So I'm just going to paint in here as well. So that's a way to paint that back off. So even in here, I feel like there's a little too much cloudiness. So I'm just going to kind of try and paint that back off like so. Okay. So that's super handy, particularly for furry things where you're trying to catch something. So like right here, I'm going to go back to the plus. I'm going to make this a bit smaller. Let's see if this will grab it. I think it might have already grabbed it. I'm not sure if it worked or not. Who knows? Because it's black, but I could do on white. And then just, actually, I will do black and white. And then I can see, yeah, it did grab a little bit of it. Not all of it. But I can also see the fur a little bit better, where it's doing like a better job and a worse job. But see, like that's pretty good. That would be hard to do manually to try and paint that fur in more correctly. Okay. So in here, you can see that's not very good. So I'm going to try and paint this back out so that I have that. So maybe paint this in here. This is starting to cut into the arm a little bit, so I'm going to paint that back out. That sort of thing, right? So let's just go back to on black and not black and white. All right. There are some other options here. These are not going to be as valid as some of the other ones, but you might find this helpful. So there is edge detection. If I go like this, you're going to see it's going to make some adjustments to my edges. I don't generally like to use it because I don't feel like I have any control. These are more useful. So smooth, what it'll do, and I'm actually going to put these on black and white so you can see a little bit better. Smooth, what it's going to do is, see how like there's jagged edges? A lot of times you want that to be smooth. As you up the smooth, it's going to smooth it out. So that's obviously a lot, right? So depending on what you're doing, that might work really well for you. It might not. Feather is going to feather it, make it fuzzy, so that it's a gradual thing. I usually find doing like 0.5 or something pixels is a good idea. Contrast, shift edge is useful. That's going to push it inwards or outwards. So if I shift it this way, see how it sucks in? And if I push it that way, it pushes out. So depending on, like, if you notice that the whole thing, you have like a little bit of a gray edge, like you can see a little bit of the background, you could shift the edge inwards to kind of cut inwards a little bit, or you could be like, oh man, it's not going all the way to the edge. You can shift it out the other way. Anyway, once we're happy with it, hit OK. And voila, now I have this doggy sort of masked. I mean, I would spend more time on it personally, but I don't want to, with you guys. So just make adjustments, paint the things, do all this stuff, okay? I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and that's going to make a mask. And that's going to cut the background out. However, the image is still there. If you look down here, you can see that we still have the image, and we have the mask that's covering it up. The nice thing is if I select that mask, at any moment, right, I got the paintbrush tool. At any moment, if I paint on the mask white, I can reveal that image. And subsequently, if I paint black over this, I can remove that part. So what that means is that even after I did the mask, I'm like, oh man, there was a screw up over here, right? I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to have this over here, or this is supposed to not be there. I can always just paint that away. So at any moment, I can make adjustments to my mask and be like, oh, that edge is too hard, or it's missing something, right? Like there's a little extra something there, right? So I can go through and just paint that away, and you can see there's little parts here too. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this a hard edge. Did that? Yeah, I want to make it a hard edge. And I'm just going to kind of paint, these things away a little bit, right? So you might find that you need to make some adjustments. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so I more or less got this guy masked up. I'm gonna hit Control T to do free transform, and I'm just going to get it roughly in position here. All right, and we're gonna call that good enough for this video. We more or less got it masked out, and I put it on the background in the most basic sense. It needs a lot more work. And the next one, what we'll do is we will make it sit in the image just a little bit better, because you can see it doesn't quite match right now.